I guess one of the first things which you do once you've decided to focus on a market is to do some research about what really matters to the customers or the consumers in that market. And traditionally, organizations have loads and loads of research. We get market surveys, we get external market reports, we run focus groups, we do conjoint analysis, we do all sorts of complicated and sophisticated and broad-based research. But typically, they're all limited. They're all restricted. Most of them aren't even used inside the organization. Somebody once said that a business leader uses research like a drunk uses a lamppost. They use it to support whatever their preconceived ideas are. But that's not much use if their preconceived ideas are narrow and restricted to the past. So the question is really, how can you get a new insight? Not just information, but insight. A flash of inspiration, a penetrating discovery, something which nobody has realized before. A realization that you can do things in a different or a better way. That's what an insight is. So the question, where do you get those insights from? Well, they come from customers. They come from not sitting inside the organization in your office, looking out of the window and trying to second guess what consumers want, but by getting out there, going and talking to them, spending time with them, living with them, being in their families, understanding where are they coming from. So what I would encourage every CEO, every finance director, every product development manager, every market researcher is don't just leave it to the market research companies, but get out there yourself. Immerse yourself, deep dive into your customers' worlds and spend time with them. Don't just ask them, what do you think of our products? Because the products might be wrong. Ask them, what are they trying to do in their lives? How are they trying to do it? How can they make things better? There was one big retailer who I recently worked with, and he went out by force eventually, and we took him to some of the big iconic stores of today, which consumers are conditioned by. We took him to the Apple store. He saw the Genius Bar. He saw these big tables where he expected to see racks and racks of products, and instead he just saw backpackers surfing the net free in the Apple store. He saw lectures and demonstrations going on about how you could use the products better, not just lines of queues of how can you buy the boxes with the products in them. And that started to make him think. We took him to IKEA, the DIY store. He saw customers having to go and pick up their boxes and queue for them. He thought, I'd never do that to my customers. But actually, the same customers who shop in his business also shopped in IKEA. And then we took him to Ritz-Carlton hotels. And he was greeted by one of the managers there who took him to his room. He couldn't quite believe that he was getting this level of individual service, and she didn't know who he was. He could have been anybody. So starting to understand the real customer's world, what motivates them, how are they going to do things, how are they conditioned by other brands and other types of experiences in other sectors, starts to give you a much bigger perspective as to what you can do differently. And once you get out there, you realize that you live in a very blinkered world. When we go to work, we suddenly put our blinkers on. We think, I work in the pharmaceutical sector, so I care about drugs and nothing else. Or I work in the soft drink sector, and I care about soft drinks and nothing else. But people don't buy soft drinks, they buy refreshment. Or they buy an accompaniment to a great meal. Or they buy something to celebrate with their friends. Or to have a good time with them. They have a much bigger reason why they buy your product. But unless you open your eyes, unless you take your blinkers off to see the customer's world, you'll never realize why your customers buy it. And once you actually do start to see the customer's world, you realize it's much bigger than your world. And a bigger world has many more opportunities than your world as you see it today. So get out there and see your customer's perspective. Start seeing the customer's world.